best one. This is the best one. So this video was made to accompany the other video, the top 10 reasons why I believe Alice in Wonderland is about the Amanita muscaria mushroom. But this reason was so important and so big that I wanted to give it its own video, so it is not included in the other one, and I don't know which is going to upload first or second. If you're watching this after the year 2023, then they're both already up. There is so much about time in the Amanita muscaria mushroom that it's almost overwhelming, and I could write an entire book about it, but as it is, my book, Dosing Amanita Muscaria and What to Expect, has 2 chapters on time because it's that important. And the very first thing that almost everyone who uses Amanita notices is the time distortion, even in microdosing. Even when they're not under the influence of it, in their daily lives, start to notice these weird time jumps and time distortions. And then as you go up higher and higher in your dose, you actually experience time dilations and shrinking and jumping in macro doses, and then in your trip doses. And then in your maximum trip doses and your full conversion to muscimol is when you experience a full distortion of time and time jumping vertically, horizontally, and in all ways. And I have a lot of videos about this already, so you can check out those on what to expect in Amanita trips. I have others on Amanita and time. I have others on time distortions like trip simulations. So if you just watch the videos on AmanitaDreamer.net, where they are not censored, then you can just watch all of that for free. I don't even ask for your email address. And one of the first things that we notice when Alice in Wonderland, at the very beginning of that story, is the white rabbit. And he's carrying a watch. And I find it interesting that the very first character to show up in the book is a rabbit with a watch who's looking at the time. And the very first thing to show up in our lives when we use Amanita muscaria is this awareness of time, that we are time. And indeed, one of the biggest lessons from Amanita muscaria about anxiety is showing us how our anxiety is tied to time. And what does the rabbit do? He's rushing and talking about how he's going to be late for a very important date. Rushing is going to be one of the most egregious forms of emotional violence that we can do to ourselves. And the more that you use this mushroom, the more layers you will understand that that has. On the surface, that seems ridiculous. I go in detail about it in my book. The longer that you use Amanita, though, the more you will start to understand how rushing is egregious and steals from some of the most basic and holy reasons why you're on the planet, and how it can actually cause you pain as you get closer to your death. And if you'll notice in Alice in Wonderland, the rabbit never gets where he's going, showing us in the story and in real life, it's a game that you can't win. It's nonsensical. It gets you nowhere. But in my trip report, I talk about how cool and funny and weird it was that one of the first sensations that I had was urgency. This urgency to get off the couch and go out on the back deck. And as soon as I got out on the back deck, I was looking around for, what am I supposed to be here for? And it told me to turn around. The mushroom said, turn around, look. And I looked through the back door into the house. It was like, get in there, get in there. And I'm like, oh shit. And so I ran in the house and I got in the house and it was like, you got to get in the kitchen. I got in the kitchen and I'm like, wait a minute. This is silly and ridiculous, this continual, and immediately I understood the reasoning. I got it all like as this download of this concept of, do you see how ridiculous this is? What's interesting then is in our cultural lexicon lore of modern times is how in the Matrix, they actually use the white rabbit. And they talk about follow the white rabbit, right? And when Neo opens the door and he sees that tattoo, then he realizes that's what I've got to follow. And then he's given a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. And the red one is the one that takes him down the rabbit hole of learning about his true nature. And so again, that is just kind of, in my opinion, someone else outside of me seeing the allegory or that connection between Alice in Wonderland, the red pill, the rabbit in time, and using that to segue into going deeper into learning about oneself and one's true nature. And I didn't want to belabor the point in the other video about Alice in Wonderland going into detail like this about time and time manipulation. If you are concerned or worried about the time jumping and the time distortion in your daily life, it's a pretty easy thing to handle. You learn how to create these coping mechanisms, and I go into that in the book and in my courses, and I think I've already got a video about it too. Pretty sure I've made videos about that, because I talk at length about it when I'm doing ibotenic acid, when I'm using Amanita on camera, on my trip reports. So I think you'll find a lot of resources that will help you deal with that. It's really not a big deal. And over time, you do learn how to compensate, and then eventually that stuff stops as you integrate what Amanita is trying to teach you into your life, and you actually take those lessons to heart, and then you settle back in to your own sense of time, and then you tie it back into the external construct of clock time. There are no ads on my channel because YouTube has demonetized it. So to pay for all the free stuff, please go to mushroomvoice.com, where you can join our community and we can Zoom and talk in person, and you can ask questions. Or you can go to the store and get my one-of-a-kind products or one-time only kits and ceremonial products and products for pain and anxiety and products that are regulars that are in the store all the time. I hope I see you soon. I love you, beautiful people. Bye.